This is Nick Taylor of Sports Times Network, along with my website partner Dan Harrelson, as we're live at 2010 SEC Football Media Days with the afternoon host of the show on the Sports Animal and Knoxville, Jimmy Hyams. How you doing this afternoon, Jimmy?
Nick, I'm doing great. Always good to be here at Media Days.
It's always great. It's always great to speak with you. Well, obviously there was a lot of speculation going into the offseason about Derek Dooley taking over for Coach Kiffin, but it seems to be overshadowed somewhat by the agent controversies, if you will. Do you think that may be beneficial to Derek in terms of the way the media perceive him tomorrow with everything else that may be going on?
It's taking some of the spotlight off of the Knoxville incident that occurred in Tennessee, no doubt about that. But I'm sure he'll be asked a few questions about that, and I think he'll handle it well. I think he handled the situation well when it occurred. I like the fact that he came off vacation, he talked to every player that was involved, came out with a punishment, came out with a press conference, and dealt with it immediately. I thought that was a good move, and I think he's made a lot of good steps along the way to try to get Tennessee back to the program that it used to be.
Overall, we know Derek Dooley is a high character guy, class act, all that good stuff, learned under Nick Saban. Do you think he's the right coach at the time for University of Tennessee football?
I think he can do a good job there. I have to acknowledge, I think it's still unproven now. He was at Louisiana Tech for 3 years. They were 17-20 his last year. They were 4-8. They had a lot of injuries. They kind of explained it away. I like his pedigree. I like the fact that his dad was a great coach. He learned from him. I like the fact that he worked under Nick Saban. There's not a better coach in the business right now than Nick Saban. So I think he probably is going to do a good job there. But I think there's still some proving to be done. And as a head coach so far, you can't say, well, that he's got a great track record. But I think he's going to be very high on discipline. I think he's going to recruit well. And I think he's kind of a no-nonsense guy, which I think is what Tennessee needs right now.
Well, some people have even compared him to a situation like Mike Shula at the University of Alabama. Do you see any similarities with the two?
Other than dark hair, not really. Shula didn't have any head coaching experience along the way, and Dooley did. And I thought it was interesting. There are a lot of Tennessee fans that wanted, for example, Will Muschamp, who was the defensive coordinator at Texas, over Derek Dooley. But Dooley had 3 years as a head coach, and I've got to think having 3 years as a head coach better prepares you than somebody being a defensive coordinator who's never been a head coach. So I like the move of Dooley to take over the Tech program to get some years under his belt as a head coach. And I think that's going to help in the transition to Tennessee. So I think with the pedigree that he's got, very smart guy, I think he is going to have success at Tennessee, but still he's got to prove it.
Jimmy, obviously, with all the turnover in the staff and everything, do you feel like you have a pretty good idea as to the identity of Coach Dooley's team offensively and defensively?
Yeah, look at Tuscaloosa, and then you'll know what that identity is. I think it's going to be. He's going to try to do the very same thing. He's going to run the pro set. He wants to run the football. He wants to play action. And I think he's going to be a little bit conservative with what he does. I think along the lines of Nick Saban, he certainly doesn't have the talent that Alabama has, but that is ultimately what he wants to do. Also, look at what his dad did at Georgia. What did they do? Herschel left, Herschel right, Herschel up the middle. Throw it on play action. So that's what he wants to do. It's going to take him a while to get the talent to implement his offense, but that is what he wants to do.
Do you think the respect's back in the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry now? And also, we have Alabama beating Georgia for the East and West divisions. Of course, Alabama, we actually have them to win it all again. Your thoughts on who's going to be in Atlanta in December, and talk about the Tennessee-Alabama rivalry again?
Well, I think Alabama's going to be in it. I think that Nick Saban does such a good job not only of coaching, but I think he's even got those players brainwashed to the fact they don't even remember that they won the national championship last year. It's like a whole new slate. Nothing happened last year. So I think they're going to be really good again. They've got to replace 8 or 9 starters on defense. They've recruited well. I think they're back in the hunt. I think that Auburn and LSU and Arkansas are all good teams that could threaten a little bit, but I don't think they're as good as Alabama. I like Florida on the other side. Florida's lost a lot of players, I understand that, but in talking to people, they think John Brandon's going to be great, and I think picking Florida is a testament to how well Urban Meyer has recruited the last few years. So I see Alabama and Florida. As far as the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry, I mean, I think it's still pretty hot. And if you talk to Tennessee fans, the older Tennessee fans, they still look at Tennessee-Alabama as a bigger game than Tennessee-Florida. Lane Kiffin thought it was Georgia because of recruiting, and I understand that. And also, if you ask Alabama, what was the toughest game they had last year? What was the closest call they had last year? It's Tennessee. You got a blocked field goal late in the game to win it. So I think that rivalry is hot and heavy, and I think it'll continue to be that way. Is there a separation? Sure. Alabama's better than Tennessee. But having said that, Tennessee really pushed Alabama last year, and I think there's a good chance there'll be a close game again this year.
Don't you think there's a lot of respect for their fan base on each side?
Yes.
Because they're just historic schools, football schools.
I do, and I certainly Tennessee knows to respect Alabama and vice versa. Do you have an ugly incident now and then? Sure you do, but I do think that, and there were some concerns over Philip Fulmer, his role in Alabama getting in trouble and so forth. The fact is that Philip Fulmer wasn't the only coach that turned in Alabama. There were 4 or 5 other coaches in the SEC that turned him in. Now, maybe nobody went to the extent that Philip Fulmer did in trying to get information about Alabama, but I think that you've got respect for these programs, 2-story rivals, and I think it's good for the league when both of them are playing well. I think it's good for the conference, and whenever you have a marquee game that features Tennessee and Alabama.
Well, Jimmy, we're about out of time. We know you're busy also, and thank you for talking a little football with us at Media Day.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. All right.